All right, good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. We are grateful that you are here tonight on February 3rd, 2026. I'm Reverend Jamar Boyd II, Senior Pastor here at Kenwood United Church of Christ. So I welcome you into our space. And the purpose of us being here tonight is to commemorate the 60th anniversary of Dr. King coming to Kenwood. And specifically, he came to this church. And so, in this very space, some 1,000 people, black folk, gathered to protest inequality in public education here in Kenwood and Bronzeville and Hyde Park. All right. And so tonight we're going to have an interactive conversation, engage in some necessary dialogue, and I hope that you all are receptive of what is said. And if you have questions at the end, we'll be able to engage that. But at this time, I want to turn it over to Mr. Shannon Bennett as well to give some welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Pastor. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Shannon Jalita Bennett, the Executive Director of the Mighty Kenwood Oakland Community Organization. And I think we can do this in the church. So let's try it, Coco. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right, if you didn't know, now you know. That's how we announce we're in the room. So really quickly, we are honored to keep a tradition going of partnership with this great institution in this community. Coco and the Kenwood Church has been locked together in the work of feeding the homeless, feeding folk who need things, clothing folk, doing different programs together for young people, and making sure that the legacy of the leaders who led this place continues as new leadership comes with innovative ideas and bringing the community together. That's why this event is coming together today. So we wanted to do this event co-sponsored by Kenwood Oakland Community Organization and Kenwood United Church of Christ to practice the unity that we learned from great leaders like Dr. King, but also to exemplify the way forward is not without the community. And I would be remiss to say that the historic institutions like that Reverend Wilson represents, Operation Push and Operation Breadbasket, were the foundation for us to be able to stand on the shoulders of great leaders. But this particular community has always been like the epicenter of a lot of black progress. So we want to welcome you all to this event. I see people still coming in. Please take it in. I didn't think we have it on the agenda. I'm going to ask to swerve it if we have some Q&A, right? That'll be good. But we have a panel planned for you. We have some historical ground setting to talk about it. But 1,000 people in this room, y'all. Think about it. 1,000. And Dr. King came to the North, motivated by the fact that he knew what was happening in the South. May not have been happening the same way exactly, but it was the same song. So we can learn from the lessons of the past.
G2, Brown, Khalil, and Tamika, if y'all would make your Tamara, if you would make your way up here. And so again, to give us some historical context tonight, right? Some of you all remember this. You were here in 1966, maybe not in this physical space, but your parent, a grandparent, an aunt and uncle, they came to this rally on February 3rd, 1966, in the middle of a snowstorm at the leading of Al Raby, Bishop Arthur Brazier, the founder of COCO, who is pictured here, is her name Miss Hattie, is that correct? Miss Hattie, and Reverend Jesse Jackson, specifically to talk about public education and the access to public education here in Kenwood. At that time, we had Hyde Park High School and Kenwood High School. And I learned this past weekend, if you lived south of 63rd, you went to one school. You lived north of 63rd, you went to another school. But when Brown v. Board of Education passed, the Chicago School Board got a little funny acting. And they determined and dictated where black and brown children were going to go. And specifically, y'all were not going to be in Hyde Park. And if you were going to be in Kenwood, we were going to segregate you to and relegate you to a particular area, which is what that meeting was about. Can you imagine 1,000 folks, 1,000 black folk, were that concerned about children and children's access to education that they packed the church on a Tuesday night in a snowstorm, and Al Raby picked up the phone and called Dr. King and said, before you go to the west side, you got to come to the south side, specifically to talk about what we're talking about. And so that's why we're here tonight, to re-engage this conversation, one, to put it in a historical context, which we'll get throughout the entirety of this night, but also to get some elder wisdom and some youthful wisdom. You all are aware, you see what's going on in Minneapolis. You know what's happening in our own city on the south side and the west side and Broadview. We're seeing it across the country as ICE is in Atlanta right now. It's in Jackson, Mississippi. They're targeting black cities led by black folks, right? So we're aware of that. The second is we also are aware of the inequities and inequalities in public education, including right here in our own city, and what it means to consistently have a deficit in a budget to support education and fund the education of our children. But more importantly, I said this at Push a couple weeks ago, the future isn't later, the future is right now. And so every person in this room has a hand in building and creating a future. Before we get started, I want Mr. G2, because he's serving the public in this moment, to give us some context of what, from your perspective, we're seeing, what we're facing, and how it's being confronted.
Yes, sir. 1, 2, okay. So first, Reverend, thank you for joining us and having this event tonight. Thank you to Coco for always being on the front line of important issues. I want to ask, if it's okay, Timothy, I just sent you a text. Can you stand up and read that text I just sent you? That's right. Hashtag on the spot. That's all right. One more time, brother, and with the exuberance that you normally read when. All right. Can somebody tell me just in your own words what you think that quote means? Y'all gonna leave me hanging on the panel like that? Until lions have their own historians, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. What do you think that quote is saying? That's right. That's right. And if somebody else is telling your story, do you think they're going to tell it to benefit you or them? Them. So, well, you could have said that at first. You could have said something. All right. I'm sorry. Who was that? Yes, sir. That's right. So the story that we're normally told about Dr. King, of course, is which was a momentous accomplishment, but was the "I Have a Dream" speech, right? But it's important to understand that Martin Luther King was sitting in this church on the low end with Coco 1 year after Coco was founded, right up there, organizing the Poor People's Campaign. And Johnny, can you stand up and read the quote that's on your phone? Thank you. I appreciate your enthusiasm, young brother. All right. So towards the end of Martin Luther King's life, he had grown. He had developed to understand that the war had to be not just for civil rights legislation, but in our neighborhoods, where many of you spend your time today. So what was required of me is to share a little bit of what's happening now. How many of you all remember there was no elected school board? Raise your hand. In Chicago. So it's important to understand that Chicago has never had an elected school board. right? If it's true that the the cow kicked open a lantern and Chicago caught on fire, we don't know if that's true or not. But if that's true, since Chicago was born, we've never had an elected school board. 1995, there was a campaign to give the mayor ultimate authority. Why? Because during that time, black folks were 55% of the city. We were what you call a soul city, right? And they knew they wanted to do mass school closings later with 29% of the population. So we fought for an elected school board to make sure that that we can actually have a voice in how schools operate in our neighborhoods. Instead of somebody saying your school is failing, we're going to say, well, wait a minute. The school on Diversity in Ashland, they have world language. We don't have world language. The school on Diversity in Ashland, they don't have metal detectors. We got metal detectors. The school on Diversity in Ashland, they have 4 counselors in one building. We don't even have a counselor. That's called inequity. That's not called failing. That's called giving one child access to inspiration and denying it to another. In 2018, we did a report called Failing Brown versus Board, and we just compared the classes that children in different cities, based on whether they were black or they were white, what they had access to. In Chicago, at Northside College Prep, they had access to 29 advanced placement courses, while at Diet, there were none. Let me say that one more time. 29 advanced placement courses in one school in the same city, and then on the other side of town, whether you're looking at Diet or you're looking at Marshall or you're looking at Austin, none. Now, to me, I say that don't mean that we have failing schools. That means as a public, we've been failed. There's somebody making a decision that says that our children are not as valuable, so they don't deserve that right. So we fought for an elected school board, got arrested for an elected school board, got kicked out of Chicago public schools, school board meetings, yelling and screaming regularly, for an elected representative school board, and we finally won it. So I represent the west side of Chicago, which is weird because I'm Coco to the world blow up, but I live on the west side. So my wife just looked at me like, what? But I live on the west side. And so I represent the Austin area and the West Garfield Park area primarily. And one of the things we've been able to do is expand the sustainable community schools model. So Austin High School just got awarded $460,000 to be a sustainable community school. So we're focusing on investing in neighborhood schools. Now, here's the response to what's happening. The privatization movement is raising millions of dollars. They are mad. They are madder than a room full of wet cats because we actually have a level of control, and we can start saying that schools like Kenwood or schools like Diet or schools like Revis or schools like Mollison, those children are just as valuable as children that live in Lincoln Park, and you are not going to sell them short. So we have a Black Student Achievement Committee. I am the chairperson of that committee, and we are being sued right now by the federal government. Check this out, and then I'm going to step back to show you the times that we're in. When they first started phasing out Diet and they closed Overton, raise your hand if you know what Overton used to be. They closed Overton, and they dumped 250 kids inside of Mollison and 250 kids inside of Burke. Mollison had 53 kindergartners in one class. I saw this with my own eyes. I saw it. The children were eating lunch in the hallways. Children that needed special services, least restrictive environment, they were getting it under the stairs on the first floor. We filed Title VI civil rights complaints with the U.S. Department of Education. We did that with 12 cities, right? Saying that school closings has a disparate impact on black communities. With 44% of the population, 88% of the school closures, right? Now, some white mothers, Moms of Liberty is the name of the group. They are suing us because they're saying having a black student success committee somehow harms white students. So they have turned the Office of Civil Rights, the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights, has been flipped to a white supremacist organization. Those are the times that you're living in. So having strength in places like this is more important than ever. Donald Trump might run D.C., but he don't run Chicago. Y'all get the point? So having local power right now, being organized locally is more important than ever. Because the wolves, they hunting. And but wolves can't do nothing with a pack of lions. So there it is. All right, so there you go,
Thank you,
brother.
sir. Let's give Mr. G2 a hand. So we're gonna start this panel off, all right? Again, I'm gonna ask a few questions. I'm gonna be mindful of time. Allow each of our panelists to have a word to speak, and then at the end we'll do some Q&A. That sound all right to y'all? So our first question, we'd love to hear from everybody on this first question. Today we're celebrating the 60th anniversary of Dr. King's visit to Kenwood. As a supporter of the fight for fair and equitable public education for black children, I want to hear in your words, why do you believe that it's important that we're in this space tonight on this day?
Well, I think it's very significant. Dr. King was, first of all, a faith leader. He was a Christian pastor, and he was a prophetic voice for the nation and really for the world. I don't know. I was alive when Dr. King was alive, and we used to rush to the television or the radio because when he spoke, the world stopped and listened. So he had the ability to galvanize the attention of ordinary people, people in high places, people in low places, to hear what he had to say. And when he came to Chicago, he came into a hostile northern city, the most segregated city in America, Chicago, then and now. They just changed the boundaries a little bit, but at the time when Dr. King came here, blacks could not live south of 63rd Street, could not go west, you couldn't rent west of Ashland. You couldn't rent east of, I think you might get to Stony Island, but you couldn't go all the way to Rainbow Beach without having a problem. We could not swim in Rainbow Beach without having to fight racist white people who would try to drive you back to your neighborhood. And so we were limited to certain areas that we could live in. Similarly, the schools were segregated, not just by color, but by resources. Black schools were under-resourced then in 1966. And so you had, between the time Dr. King came here and as schools began to integrate more and more, we had Willis wagons. Our schools would be overcrowded, and so much so that we had to go to school in construction trailers that would be parked outside our buildings. We used to call them the Willis wagons because Willis was the superintendent of schools at that time. The only people that had Willis wagons were the black schools. That's right. We did not have social workers every day. We did not have certain classes. You know, they had to rotate teachers throughout the districts. So you may have art one day a week, not every day. You had gym that would be scheduled differently because we were overcrowded. So Dr. King was fighting two things. He was fighting really three things: the level of poverty, slum landlords in Chicago, pretty much like what you have today. What we saw in South Shore, where we couldn't live at one time, South Shore Country Club, blacks could not go there, which is a park district facility. That's how old I am. I know these things. So we couldn't go to the South Shore. They called a country club. No, it blocked black people out of there. And that same South Shore community that now has a large number of black people, that is now changing because of the Obama Presidential Center being there. Dr. King came here to Kenwood, which is in Hyde Park, Kenwood. Segregation. Hyde Park did not want a black high school in Hyde Park. We had to fight to get, after his death, Martin Luther King High School, named after Dr. King, because they were building a new school not for black students. They were building it for the white students. We were not to go to what is now King High School. This is because Chicago was racially segregated, and there were certain rules. There property all around this church that were, they had restrictive covenants where they could not rent, sell the land to anybody of color. And that was throughout Chicago. The fact that Dr. King came to this church, Kenwood Oakland Community Organization, COCO, is significant because he sent Reverend Jackson to Chicago. Reverend Jackson at one time was the first executive director of COCO. And so when he came here, he's then bringing Dr. King to bring light on what is happening in the North, Chicago being the epicenter of the Northern Initiative. Dr. King started in the South, which is where he grew up, what he knew, and what he understood. He came to Chicago, he faced racism like he had never experienced in the South. And he said that this is worse than the South, where you had busing. Now, after Dr. King died and left, I'm thinking everything is better. COCO comes to push because they were closing Dyett High School when they had this plan to close 50 schools. Y'all remember that? 50 black schools were closed, black and some brown, but mostly black schools. Mostly black schools were closed arbitrarily, saying they were understaffed, under-resourced, and they didn't have enough students. Bunch of lies. And moving black children outside of regular attendance boundaries to create the disparity in the school. So COCO comes to push and said, we're going on a hunger strike. They had done a whole lot of things. So they lived in push during the hunger strike. We came back and we were always together. We started with Reverend Jackson when he first came to Chicago. It was here with COCO and at this church. Years later, the segregation is still continuing. The disparity and the disinvestment still continues. So COCO comes to push and leads the hunger strike to fight to keep Dyett High School open. And people said, oh, this cannot happen. We're not going to do it. And I kept every day. At night we go and we look at G2 and them, see they still alive. Then we'd have a press conference the next day, and they spent, it was a real struggle. And so for him to serve on the first elected school board says something about when you resist unconditionally and you don't sell out, God will provide. And so I think it's just significant that we're here 60 years later. The same struggles. We're still fighting for equity in public education. It was never about us going to school with white children. It was about having the same resources allocated to us. People thought, you just want to go to school. No, we didn't ask for that. If you give them $16,000 per pupil, we want $16,000 per pupil. If you allow them to have, like today, you go to Neuqua Valley or any of the majority all-white schools, they have a computer for every child. We have children get a computer cart. Here we are in the 21st century. It's not equal. It's not right. It's not fair. Children are not dumb. They don't have access. You don't have a language teacher every day. You don't take language every day. You don't have immersive language. So our children don't learn Spanish or French or German or Russian in an immersive way. They have teachers that are maybe, I don't know, they're not learning it. They're not learning math and science because they don't have math and science equipped teachers to teach them, and they don't have the technology. It's not that we don't understand AI, we're not getting access and training to use the technology of today. So the fight still continues, and that's why I'm so excited to be here with Coco at Kenwood United Church of Christ. You have to go to the church because this is what this church stood for and stands for today. We stand and fight with the people.
Tamara?
Is it on? Okay. I think that it's really important as a young person to be able, one, to sit in an audience full of individuals who have lived that experience and who has been a part of that experience. But if I can have all of the young people in the audience stand up for a second for me, please. Come on, young people. I think it's important also to really look here at our legacy, at our young people who may not know this history, but who are here willing to learn and discover and really be able to understand the history that comes with this. You guys can sit down. I think it's very important to really be able to teach our upcoming leaders to acknowledge them and to understand that they are the individuals that will at some point replace us, and they will be developing and creating this new movement, or they'll be the one continuing this legacy. So coming from a young person standpoint, I believe that it's very important for us to educate and for us to be educated, but for us to educate our young people that'll be filling that space for us when it's our time to transition.
Wow, all the pressure. Gosh. Um, One thing that I learned is that Dr. King didn't just come to our city to give speeches. He came to confront the problems that we were facing with education and racism and everything that we have been going through. So over the past, and some of the problems that he came here for 60 years ago are still happening today. So we have to learn that we are the leaders that we've been waiting for. And if you know where that came from, it's on the back of Coco, the greatest. Oh my God, I got her name wrong. Oh my God, we gonna skip that. Y'all don't worry about what I just said. But we're the leaders that we've been waiting for to make the change happen that needs to happen today. Tonight isn't just about honoring Dr. King, but it's making sure that we take that legacy with us and making sure that we are part of the change. From the young people to the seniors in the room, we all have a battle, and the battle doesn't end with one of us, and it doesn't start with one of us. But when we all come together, that when the battle is ready to be won.
Our next question. From your point of view, including education, what issues are impacting the lives of children, youth, and young adults today that we may not be aware of? This is from a youthful perspective and an elder perspective.
From my perspective, I think a problem that is impacting. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so from your point of view, including education and the more, so not just education, but mental health, the whole nine, what are some issues that are impacting children, youth, young adults that we may or may not be aware of?
I think just thinking, I learned that when you take away those, just education and housing, when you take away those two basic quality of life areas, that you taking away those two basic quality life areas equals gentrification. It pushes our people out. So the issue that I think that, how can I say this? My bad. Education is the fault line. We need to be able to have our own system in place where we can give education to the young people of the future, the young people of now, the young people of today. We are the ones that will ultimately always be the now, the present. It's always young people that will always be at that pinpoint in life where you will be able to make change and see the change happen when that's needed. Yeah.
I think one of the things that we're missing is the impact of ICE on the emotional stability or instability of our young people. When you live in fear of every day as to whether or not you will be arrested by local police or accosted by ICE agents who are not police, wearing black masks, black jackets like the Ku Klux Klan, the long-term impact of that on the hearts and minds of young people is devastating. And I don't think we're measuring or even considering that impact. We have children that go to school with children of different cultures who disappear, and nobody tells the students in class where they are, and we're not looking for them as a collective. And so I think that this is the first generation since, I guess, Reconstruction and slavery that has experienced this kind of slave catcher environment. You go to school today, and there are 30 kids in the classroom. You come back tomorrow, there are 20. What happened to the other 10? Who took them? And so I think that's one of the things. And then I did not grow up with the access to social media. We didn't have it. And so some things were kept private. We didn't have access to millions or hundreds of television channels and all sorts of media that can bombard you with lies and half-truths. We just didn't have any of that. I don't know how we are measuring the impact on young minds. You know, you're an 8-year-old and you can see stuff that we couldn't even imagine. The level of sex and violence that our children are ingesting each and every day. And I'll close with this. I did 39 funerals of children when I was working at CPS. And I'm at each one, I just had to stop, but each one I would go to, because they had been murdered by somebody, I would go, and I am emotionally distraught, and the children are looking at it as if these are pieces of clay, that they're not real people in one sense. And so they were grieving very differently. I think that's something we have to look at as we continue with the level of violence that surrounds our kids in these neighborhoods. And now you have outsiders coming in, snatching children. That's problematic for both the parents and the children of today.
So for me, ooh, that's loud. So for me, there are two issues specifically that I want to kind of engage with the audience with. One of them is really dear and near and close to my heart, and it's something that I do as my role as a youth organizer at COCO, which is the aspect of our missing and murdered Black girls and women. I think that's something that we don't really talk about enough, and I think it's something that we need to bring more awareness to. Our young Black girls are going missing, and we're not getting enough media attention. We don't have laws put in place to make sure that they are safe, they are kept, and they are heard of, and they're thought about. We don't have liaisons for parents to really be able to navigate those conversations with law enforcement so that, you know, parents can get the information they need on their children's cases. So I think one thing that's near and dear to my heart is that aspect of missing and murdered Black girls and women, and really navigating what the solution would be for that, which, you know, something we're working on is an office dedicated specifically to missing and murdered Black girls, because we think that, as well as that liaison, will be that kind of bridge point and pulling that gap together that'll help the families and the community out. One other thing that I want to talk about is really just the safety of our African American youth. I think it's really important that we understand that a lot of these laws that are being put in place, like the curfew, is really not justified. And like my executive director says all the time, I think now we need to shift our perspective and start looking at it from a youth leadership and adult partnership perspective. How are we making these rules and navigating all of these laws for young people, but we're not getting young people's input? How are we making decisions for young people, but young people aren't sitting in the room with us making those decisions? So I think the safety of our missing and murdered Black girls and women, but the safety of our young people as a whole is something that we need to navigate, not only, you know, within ourselves as adults, but in our community with that youth leadership and adult partnership.
My mic sounds nice. Y'all got it? Okay. So I will say this. I'm so glad you brought that up, sister, because I think that there are young people in this audience that have really done incredible work And because of mainstream society, and sort of the culture that exists through social media and everything else, you might think you may not honor that work that you do. But there are young people in this room that have helped to solve murders of black women. There are young people in this room that have pushed the Chicago Police Department to actually redo their DNA database. Young people in this room have done that work. There are young people in this room who work with children every day and are good at it, right? There are elders in this room who have held slumlords accountable when slumlords were mistreating people in our community. This is a powerful room that we're sitting in right now. And so thank you for lifting that work up, sister. I would say this. I'm 59 years old. I'll be 60 May 11th. I accept Cash App, Venmo, whatever. But let me say this. I grew up on 103rd Street. Let's call it the 10 tray. I grew up on the tray. And stop hating, Timothy. So one of the things that I remember as a child was that the man that owned the gas station looked like me. There was no liquor store at the corner. It was a white hand pantry. A black man owned it. And when I walked through my neighborhood, I saw that I could be in leadership. Most of my teachers looked like me. And so Black History Month was just an accent on what we did every day. My principal, Mr. Barnett, used to rock a natural and a dashiki, right? And so you grew up with a sense that you belonged. Because of Coco, I've been blessed to travel in a lot of places throughout the United States through the work I do with the Journey for Justice Alliance. I've been on the streets in Newark, New Jersey. I've been on the streets of Camden, Oakland, almost any urban city you could think of. Little Rock, Arkansas, Jackson, Mississippi, New Orleans, Baton Rouge. And the one thing most black communities have in common, we don't run none of it. The one thing most black neighborhoods have in common all over this country is that somebody else is controlling our quality of life institutions. They controlling our schools. They control what kind of food we eat. They control our housing. They control our health care. Didn't we just have to go to war to save Mercy Hospital in this room? And so what I think the problem is that we live in a state of colonialism in our own neighborhoods. We live in communities that we don't control. And for too long, we've been okay with that. But what's happening in Chicago, all right, Ms. Bob, what's happening in Chicago, though, in Bronzeville, in Austin, in Inglewood, is you see this resurgence of black ownership. I believe that now that we have sustainable community schools, black children should be learning entrepreneurship and economics. We should be learning the history of a neighborhood like this, where Richard Wright lived, where Louis Armstrong lived, where Captain Walter Dyer taught, where Nat King Cole, with his Blackstone Ranger brothers, went to Doolittle East Elementary School. Right? This powerful community where the first black hospital in the United States, the first black-owned hospital in the United States was built right on 51st Street. Like, this is a powerful community. This was the center of black America. And they teach our young people, like, we can't control our own communities. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And just like we took that elected school board, that elected school board wasn't given to us. And I'm not trying to brag, because it was a struggle. Like, we spent can you imagine sleeping in tents outside of Chicago public schools? And there's some people that are doing the bidding. And I'm not against all charter schools, all right? But I am against the charter industry. You have some charter schools that are excellent, North Lawndale College Prep, but most of them are hustlers. Most of them are education hustlers that are in our community, like used school salesmen. And as soon as it ain't profitable, they out. What I'm learning on this board right now is these charter schools, they heading for the hills, brother, because we redid the contracts, and we said we're gonna hold you accountable, and they like, we out. We gone. So we need to think that we have the right to be in control of every institution that impacts our life. Our schools, our health care, our food production and delivery systems. Why can't I go to your store and buy my shoes? Why I gotta go somewhere else? Walk down 47th Street and just watch who run it. Watch who run it. And they take that money out of your community. And there's no hate against this but you're not in their neighborhood. You're not in their neighborhood. So to me, that's the issue. If we don't run it, it ain't for us. And I think it's that simple. So that's what I got.
Drop the mic, huh? All right, next question. Next question. I'm gonna ask one more question and get their answers, and then we'll get audience Q&A. That sound all right? So I want to hear from specifically Khalil and Tamara on this question. It's 2026. Now I'm 31. So for me, when I was in high school, we had our moments of crisis. I can remember being in middle school, Hurricane Katrina, and what that meant living in metro Atlanta, specifically the suburbs, to know that your friends, your parents' friends were now relocating to metro Atlanta, and white flight happened at the snap of a finger. Predominantly white school districts, predominantly white neighborhoods transformed into black enclaves, but like Mr. G2 said, we didn't run nothing. So I know what it meant to go to a middle school where it was 600 or 700 students, and within a year you went from 600 to 700 to 1,300, to having trailers outside in the field where you used to play and do all of that. Now y'all are moving like cattle. All right, to the point you now build 2 separate high schools so that you can separate some of these black and brown kids out of the majority white high school. That's in 2009 to 2012. All right, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, the Gina 6. I don't even know if y'all know what that is. That was a big deal for black kids to witness that on television, what happened in Louisiana. And the list goes on. Sandra Bland, Black Lives Matter, concerned student 1950 at the University of Missouri. And we all got involved in college in the moment. And if there's some elders in here, y'all remember the crisis moments of y'all's youth, your young adults, eras, and you got involved. But I really don't know what it is to be in your teens, your 20s in this moment. I would be paranoid. So can you communicate to us how y'all are seeing this moment, where the very things Dr. King fought for, Reverend Jackson, Miss Hattie, the whole list, the whole 9 of elders and ancestors, in the American dream you were sold, and you seeing in real color, this ain't real. We've been duped again. How are y'all talking about this?
So I think that, again, I'm going to definitely plug in the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization. One thing that we do with our young people is we host a youth council. This is a space, actually, our young people that are in our youth council, can you stand up for me? Right. So our youth council is a space, you can sit down, where we allow our young people to come in, to organize, to gather ideas, to have conversation, to navigate what they want to do next. And that was a space where, you know, our young people still to this day come together and they figure out the dynamics of the We Walk for Her March we have, which is something that we do annually in that issue of missing and murdered black girls and women. So I feel like what it is now is really opening up that space to young people and giving young people that space to be heard, to have that space where they feel comfortable, and then to be able to navigate what they want to come next, because that's the biggest part. What's next? What do we do? How do we do it? And like I said earlier, a lot of that now in this day and this age should be youth leadership with adult partnership. if they are the ones that are now currently being directly impacted with these things, and 5 years from now, they're the ones that have to live with these laws that are being put in place, why are they not the change makers? Why are they not facilitating these hard conversations? Honestly, I feel like, why are they not up here answering some of these questions themselves, right? Because they are just as talented, they are just as educated, and they have just as many ideas as all of the panelists up here on this stage. So while, of course, this is not necessarily a hard time to live in, but a lot of different maneuvers, a lot of different economics, and a lot of things happening and transitioning in the world, I definitely think as adults, sometimes we have to take that step back and really look at our young people and say, what do we do about it? What's next to come? How do we make the change? We have to all start somewhere. And I think our young people, of course, have a lot of good ideas and a lot of strengths to navigate that next what if.
One thing that the way that I've been looking at it is that the system that we wake up to every day isn't broken. It's working exactly how it was designed to work. So it just takes us to work with, again, our young people. I call them my kids, my young people, to make that change that we need to happen. They are the ones with all the ideas, I promise you. We run through about, our meetings are supposed to go from 5 o'clock to 6:30. We don't leave till 8 o'clock because they want to be in a space where they can just be free, chill, just talk, and just relax with their friends. So they have that, we give them that, Coco gives them that opportunity for them to build and make change. And one thing that really resonates with me is how many different young people come in there. It's some that like to rap, some that like to draw, some that like to do TikTok, some that like to scroll, some that like sports. It's so many young people that coming up with so many different ideas that if it's one idea that they could settle on and make change, they can do it. Just because they know that they can come to Coco and they'll be able to have that support from us as the youth organizers of the youth council and even the adult staff in Coco, all the way to the executive director, Mr. Bennett. Even if it's going in there, hey, can we eat some popcorn right quick and then we finna go to the table? Just small stuff like that lets them know, gives them the opportunity to have that change in them. Yes, and very, very, very important. It lets them know that they are supported. No matter what, they are supported. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. So, if you have a question, we're not gonna get into a debate tonight. Say amen.
Amen.
All right.
Hallelujah.
We're not having no debates. But if you have a question for the 4 people who are up here, and I will say this, or you're an elder with some elder context, I think that's important. We've talked about youth leadership, adult partnership, and sometimes it requires hearing some not so comfortable perspectives from elders and putting it in context, but not through disrespect. All right? So if you do have a comment or question,
Good evening, everyone. I am Orima Roark. They call me Miss OJ. Miss OJ. Listen, I have a major concern where there's a disconnect of not so much even the establishment and teens as it is parents and teens. I think we're stressing more on where we want teens to go, but I think parents have to have a bigger, more present part of this whole conversation. Parents are younger. The relationships that they have between their children is kind of different from when, of course, I was with my parent. Just to be clear, I am going to be 80 next year. I'm just jumping right on to next year. As I woke up and I said, oh my God, I am old. But how about seasoned? How about that?
Yes, ma'am.
But I know the relationship I had with my mother, and I wished it had have been communicative, that we communicated with one another better. With my daughter, I said I never was going to say because I said so, but I did say that. What I saw with my daughter and her daughter, by the way, who happens to be my granddaughter, she just made 30. She has a master's and she's working on a PhD. And she's so much like me until I'm going, oh, Lord, let me step in there and help her. Because with all of her accomplishments, at least she has someone to help steer her. So that parent-grandparent thing is there. So parent, grandparents, and the children's lives, I just don't see it. Even for the kids that are gathering and the curfews that you were talking about, know where your children are. There's no way my child would be downtown in that kind of craziness. And although they do sneak and you can't keep total control of them, we have to connect, I think, with the parents. So tell me what's happening with that part of this whole scenario.
You got it?
When you were Miss OJ, did I get it right? Okay, Miss OJ. Hey, Miss OJ, how you doing? Happy birthday. I don't know if I'm gonna see you. Happy birthday. So when you were talking about the parents and the teens correlation, I also been thinking about this a lot throughout the September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, 9 to 10 months that young people are in school, they see their teachers more. I think it's more of us getting in those classroom situations and being able to teach them, like tap into their own skills and interests on what they want to do, on how can we bring your skills out, what do you like to do, and give them more opportunities on being able to do whatever it is that they want to do, instead of doing the media aspects of the youth that is being shown. Personal, not personal, unpersonal. I was a part of it was easy going when I was going outside and downtown to party. It's not hectic how it is now. So I was able to see, like, some of the people that were down there were people I have been in school with them, but they wasn't always going down the same path as me, per se, in school. It wasn't the same. In diet, we have pathways. It was theater, art, digital media, dance. It was a bunch of different pathways of students. So I think in the way that you would go about stuff in school is how you would take it outside of that. Because let's say school starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 3 p.m. and you have something to do after school that ends at 5 p.m. By 6 p.m. you getting home, 7 p.m. you eating, 8 p.m. you washing up, you're asleep. Now you're asleep to make sure you're on time for school, and then you are up and out the house by 7 o'clock. So we really didn't have that much direction with parents, correct? So it was more of that. That's how I picked about it. That's me. My bad. I don't got to. But that's all. I hope I answer your question.
As a parent, I am here to escort my child from where they are to where God would have them to be. Children cannot and should not raise themselves. Never been there, can't tell been there how to get there. Now, does that mean the children don't have an opportunity to voice some things? But some decisions parents must make. And for a parent to not know that their child is downtown walking on top of cars, partying down in the loop, that's not being a parent. And we cannot justify bad behavior with children making decisions. That's a poor decision. And we are to guide children, not beat them, abuse them. But at 5 and 6, at 12, you don't know what you're doing. And so I think that there has to be a relationship between parents and their children where you can communicate. But my daughter better not get on a bus and go based on some social media post, go downtown and do some stuff that we don't know anything about. That's unacceptable. And I don't think that's what he's suggesting. I see life as a relay race. And if I'm running a relay race, I'm only going to give the baton to a person that is on my same team. I'm not going to hand it off to somebody I don't know. And in order to be in the race with me, you got to run faster than I'm running. So you have to not only catch me, get the handoff, you got to run faster and you have to run past me because it's your leg of the race next. But we train together, we learn together, and then you go. The idea that, somebody's holding the baton and won't give it to you, that's foolish. And some people do that, but we have got to, as elders, give it up. It's your leg of the race. I can tell you the last time I ran it, there was a pothole there, there was a tree hanging over it. I can help you make it easier. You shouldn't make the same mistakes that I make. And that is why you have to have intergenerational dialogue, intergenerational collaboration. I just left Minneapolis with people younger than me, had never done a demonstration before. I'm not afraid at all. Pushing them and saying, I don't go if I don't know who's going to bond me out if I get arrested, who's going to meet me in court if I have to go. Those are things you prepare in advance. So there's some things I know that you wouldn't know if you've never done it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I just need to be there to help you. So when they arrest you, when they beat you upside your head, I make sure you're taken care of. I'm with you all the way.
I just want to say I went to elementary school and high school. Yeah, I'm 84 years old. I went to Wendell Phillips Elementary, Wendell Phillips High School, and when Dr. King came, we walked over in Marquette Park because that's where all the discrimination of the schools was at that time. They didn't allow black folks over there going to school. But in my day, the parents was there taking care of their kids. These parents now, they don't know their kids running downtown, tearing up downtown. I ain't never heard of that. And I was born in Chicago, June 7, 1941. I'm 84.
Yes, ma'am.
And I went through Phillips Elementary and high school, then went me a couple of years in college. Because my father and mother made us do that. When my father got off that bus on South Park at the time, we better be sitting on them steps waiting on him to come from the post office. But he also worked at Dawes School. He was the only black out there, but he was a custodian then. So I've had experience in all of that. I walked with Dr. King, remember, in Marquette Park? Yes, ma'am. We was all walking with him then. So I've been through all that. And now I'm 84 and I'm still marching.
Yes, ma'am. I'm talking about. Can I add? Sure. I want to offer just really quickly. So elders, don't get mad at me. You know, I'm on good paper with y'all. I don't want no trouble. All right. Yes, ma'am. I remember as a child the organization that was in my neighborhood, the different types of jobs. My father, who had a 9th grade education, worked for Wisconsin Steel. So our parents and our grandparents, when we evacuated to South, because we didn't migrate, when we evacuated to South, we were able to find jobs, careers here in Chicago. The infrastructure of our neighborhoods were different. My mother used to take me to the Rosemore Community Association meetings. I saw Mr. Marble and them form the Rosemore Baseball Association. I was like 11 years old. We have to remember that when I was 20, crack hit our communities. See, in the 1960s, we experienced heroin. Heroin got men, crack got women. Y'all hear me? Heroin got men, crack got black women. And so our communities were ripped in half from that experience. We also experienced mass incarceration of our young people. I remember, I don't know, Ms. Travis, if you remember this, we were doing a program at Northeastern Illinois School for Inner City Studies. Ida B. Wells housing projects was still up. And they did a sting, and they had 2 school buses full of 14 to 18-year-olds that they took to prison. So if you got $10 worth of rock in your pocket, that's a bid. That's not county jail, that's a bid. And they built prisons off of this. So the infrastructure that many of us enjoyed when we were little, it don't exist anymore. The neighborhoods that I talked about earlier where we had ownership and these were our communities, it doesn't exist like that anymore. And so when we look at our neighborhoods now, if I ask young people in this room who owns the corner store, they're going to say who they're going to say. If I say, well, you go to the gas station, who owns that? How many of you all had mostly white teachers? Most of them are going to say, watch this. Young people in the room, if you went to school and you had the majority of your teachers were white, raise your hand. All right? So if I understand anything correct, if you went to school and the majority of your teachers were black, raise your hand. Okay. Now, most of the older folks raise their hand. So if I understand things correctly, it's not an excuse, but we got to have a realistic understanding of like what's happened to our community. We got to understand that we have been through it. You know, a very wise man said this to a few of my friends recently. He said that history is the same playbook with different actors. That had a profound impact on me. I've been thinking about that ever since it was said. And so what ICE is doing now is what they did with the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, right? The black codes of 1865. But it's also what they did with the mass incarceration of primarily black youth in the 1990s. They were sweeping young people out of our neighborhoods. If me and this brother walking down the street and I got $20 worth of crack in my pocket, he getting $10 worth of rocks, whether he got them in his pocket or not. Do you understand like how evil that is? They were building prisons off 3rd grade feasibility studies. I mean, do you hear that? Like how wicked that is. Like not, we got to save these children. Okay, we in Marion, we're going to build this, in this suburb north of St. Louis, we're going to build this prison because these kids can't read. That's what you're dealing with. That's what we dealing with. So I just want to, yes, parenting is different. Yes, the parents are different. But the stability that we had, living in the neighborhoods that we had, our young people don't have that privilege today. Where I met these sisters' mama, I always put y'all on blast. But we met their mama in Ida B. Wells housing projects when her mama was 7 years old. The school that her mama went to, Einstein Elementary, is condominiums right now. 3850 South Cottage Grove. Condominiums right now. The forced removal of a population intentionally to say, I'm going to sabotage your life because I don't want you here. And so I just wanted to offer that just to say, I'm offering a perspective to just say that, yes, it's different, but we're struggling out here. And we're struggling out here on purpose. But what you all are doing, what many of you are doing, is the solution. This brother said, we the leaders we've been waiting for. And so one of the things, and I'll be quiet after this, one of the best experiences I had as a young organizer, I started doing programs at this school called Fuller Elementary School. It used to be called Fuller. What's Fuller's name now? They changed it because they found that Fuller was a racist. Yeah, James Farmer. So it's James Farmer now on 42nd and St. Lawrence. And it was this sister named, and I was trying to get a base of parents, and they ain't know me, so they wasn't coming to the meetings. And this sister named Linda Brown took me around the neighborhood. And she was like the mama of the neighborhood. Everybody loved Miss Brown. And we were working with her children, Jania and Tasha. And we were working with their children. Miss Brown knew that we were sincere. So she started blessing me in the neighborhood. Like, we go to the corner store. I didn't have my African name. I was still Brother Aaron at the time. They're like, this is Brother Aaron. He's a good brother. And so then we started running a parent group. And because Miss Brown was there and Miss Brenda Perry was there, the other parents started coming. And before you know it, at a school where they say that parents don't want to be involved, we got 25, 30 parents every Thursday at 2 o'clock. And we sitting there. And so the reason I'm saying that is if we want to start recapturing our traditional values, it's an old saying, revolution is the creation of an alternative. We got to start creating those spaces where we can have those conversations. And don't assume that we all understand and we all know. And not pass judgment on each other, but pass some love to each other, right? And so to me, the work that they're doing is just that. That young people can actually come together and do good. They can come together and do like real good, important stuff. So, and that wouldn't exist if they weren't creating that safe space. So that's what I got, brother.
Thank you. We're going to take one more question. Brother Todd Belcourt here of Social Change.
Hello. Okay, I've in light of the fact that it's covered by the media, I actually have a different question than I had initially. But I do have something I want to leave with you in light that this is covered by the media. The first of which being what G2 brought up about history and the actors changing. We already have a blueprint for how to radically change the oppressive system that we currently live under and have lived under. That's protest and legislation. So as you all engage in the protest and engage in legislation, you know the devil is in the details. When you finally get the victory, when it's written to paper and how it's also implemented, that's where some of the injustice continue to be perpetuated. I know you all know that and live that. How can organizations like mine or some of you said adult partnership, I love that concept. How can we be helpful as folks who've been doing legislative work for 16 years to help draft and help move things along so whatever it is that you're asking for is actually what is represented on paper? And the second item that I want to leave with you, that was a question, please answer, but the second one is, make sure you're developing a sound strategy for the weaponization of the media and infiltration of organizations.
He's asking how can, after you do, so for example, you all did something very powerful last year where you all accompanied the seniors to calling for the Senior Bill of Rights. And it was like 150 young people supporting seniors. And now Alderman Jeanette Taylor is going to move the Senior Bill of Rights. But if I heard you correctly, you were saying that you get the legislation passed, but then the implementation of it is sabotaged in the details because the political will to really do it ain't there. So how can they be helpful in when you all pass something? If you all pass the Ebony Alert, how can the community be helpful in making sure that you hold people accountable to the things that are on paper? Okay? Say that again. That's right.
Not me saying. So I learned that when you have the people most impacted by the issue, working on that issue to make change, then you'll be able to stick with them people. Everybody remember the fight for diet being the hunger strike. that was not the full campaign. That was a tactic in the campaign. Tactics, the city hall sit-ins, that's the tactic right there. But being a SES school was also a tactic, but it was still in a great long scheme of goals for it to happen and be a part of that campaign. The fight for diet is the campaign. Those certain things that people remember about are the tactics. I know I just repeated myself. I just want to make sure that I was clear with myself. Yeah, so it's just having the people that are most impacted on that issue still with you, still supporting you, and making sure that, hey, we know that this may change. Do we still have your support? Are you still going to be here with us? And it's just making sure, even if the people that are most impacted have a change to it, let's see how we can fit this in to everyone's best. What's the word? Best interest. That's the word. Yeah, I think that's all.
What made them successful, you had various tactics that the community engaged in, the hunger strike and going down to City Hall. The difference is Jeanette Taylor is not just somebody out of the blue. She came out of the diet campaign. And so once you get the policy, she's now an alderman to push that policy through and to make sure, because she comes out of the community. We keep letting people get elected. They don't represent the community. She was born out of Cocoa, and we must know that. And so when she speaks, she's not speaking from accommodation. She's not speaking because somebody gave her some money. She speaks for the people that she represents. She's an authentic representative of the Kenwood, Oakland community. Therefore, when she goes into city council, she knows what a price they paid physically, emotionally, for that legislation, for that ordinance. And so she's going to make sure it keeps getting implemented. It's processed. She's in the halls, and then she can come back to the community, and they can tell her, we heard this, we saw this. She can fight on the inside while we fight on the outside. What typically happens, we push for public policy. We don't put the people inside to monitor our public policy. That's the problem, one of the problems we're having now, not just at city council, in the state house. They go to Springfield. We don't know what they're doing because we didn't put them there. We didn't send them there. We vote, but we didn't. She grew up in Cocoa. She was trained for this moment. And every powerful people, you have your representatives, you have your business people that fund it, and you have your community organizers that fight for it. And that's what we have to do each and every time. It's a strategic thing. And that's what we're seeing now. We're fighting a strategic force to disenfranchise us. So now we have to make sure you can't be our U.S. Senator if you don't speak for us. You cannot be our state legislator if you don't represent the legislative district where I live. And I want you to come back telling me what you're doing. Jeanette Taylor comes back to the community all the time. You call her any day. She knows who you are as it relates to how she got there. That's what we have to do as a community. This midterm election is not just voting arbitrarily. We got to vote specifically. G2 would come to push every week with an agenda. This is what we want, the people. And that's why I know Coco, because they were coming there, not just for the hunger. They were coming talking about this one. Reverend, we need you to push for this. So-and-so, we need you to push for this. That's why we got elected school board. People didn't want that downtown. Yeah, you got to push hard at every level. And you got to know the levels of government, which is what Coco was teaching the community. We got to have our own alderman. We got to have our own state rep, state senator. I mean, they were going all down the line. And that's what it takes, and you know that.
I'm going to let Tamara answer this as well, and then we'll close out.
Honestly, I can't really top that. I think it was so well put together. But I definitely think engagement is also the key. The train doesn't stop when you get what you need or when you get to that station. It has to keep moving. Just because you get a policy change does not mean you stop there. You keep your coalition engaged. You keep your members engaged. You keep the community engaged. And that's what's going to keep whatever policy, whatever program, that's what's going to keep that engagement, and that's what's going to keep it moving. My executive director, I love him. He's on me about this office. And the thing about it is we don't stop at a city level. That's part of the mission and that's part of the goal, but that's not where we're stopping at. We need it to be statewide. We need other states to have this. This is just the start of what we're doing, but just because that train stops at a certain station doesn't mean it stops moving indefinitely.
One of the things that I thought it was just hitting me when you were talking, brother. I think what we're seeing happening all over the country right now, they're taking Philadelphia, they're removing statues or they're removing plaques that lifted up slavery. They're removing artifacts from libraries all over the United States. They're pulling people out of history books. But one of the things that I've been thinking about, just working and organizing kind of at the national level, is let's look at education. See, we gave Arnie Duncan a pass. Because we accepted Arnie Duncan, we got Betsy DeVos. And now we got the woman that's the WWE. So, and the only difference between Arnie Duncan and Betsy DeVos was vouchers. The only difference. And I think that in the black community, we got to confront that class thing that sort of says you poor because it's your fault, right? To me, ain't none of us free till we all free. And that's how we feel at Coco. Ain't none of us free till we all free. Like poverty is manufactured. The mentality that exists in our community is manufactured. And so we have to begin to say, we want, because think about it like this, Donald Trump is so horrible, but he didn't close 160 schools in Chicago. Richard Daley and Rahm Emanuel did, right? And Barack Obama blessed Rahm Emanuel. He put his arm around Rahm Emanuel, and black folks, because we loved Obama, we voted for him, right? And he decimated our neighborhoods. If you drive through North Lawndale, bruh, I've gotten choked up driving through North Lawndale looking at all the closed schools, right? And that is the forced removal of a population. It ain't gentrification. Stop saying that word. It's a purge. It's a purge. And so for me, the way that we hold them accountable is exactly what Reverend Wilson said, but it's also that we stay organized. We got to stop relaxing. We got to realize that we are amongst wolves. We are amongst wolves. Kwame Ture said the fallacy of a moral argument is when you think that your oppressor has morals. That's the fallacy of it. Like if they see you suffering, like somehow it's going to tug at their heart. Dr. Bobby Wright called it the psychopathic racist personality. That when it comes to us, right and wrong don't matter. When it comes to us, our bleeding don't matter. Our children suffering don't matter. Black women struggling, dying at childbirth don't matter. This is the same society that experimented on black women with no anesthesia. I mean, and they had statues of this dude in Alabama. They had statues of this dude. They cutting on black women with no anesthesia. They giving black men syphilis and sitting back and just watching, right? And so the government is pumping crack into black communities and funding it. And when we were addicted to crack, we were criminals. White children addicted to opioids, it's a healthcare issue. So I think that, and so what I'm talking about is not white people. I'm talking about the notion of whiteness that makes you think that somehow you're better and you're different. And I think there are people that are racialized as white that think how we're thinking. And I think that we have an important role to play in that fight. We the soul of it. We the soul of it. But we got to step into those spaces and stop tiptoeing and start stomping in those spaces. And when we stomp, the world shake. when we stump. But we got to learn to stump. You understand what I'm saying? And so we waged war on school closings in Chicago. The fight for diet was the line in the sand. It was a line in the sand. And it was Rahm Emanuel's first L. And we will take a bow for that. It was his first L. Then Laquan McDonald, and it was a wrap. Right? So I just want to add that context, brother. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Can we give all of our panelists a round of applause, please? Listen, thank you all for coming, number one. Number two, we're here every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, and we invite you to be in worship with us. And did y'all enjoy this? If you did, we'll do it again, all right? So we'll host more. Before we leave, let me give us a word of prayer and a benediction. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you that we were in this place on this day at this time. 60 years later, it is no denying that the ancestral spirit of Dr. King, of Mr. Ravy, of Miss Hattie, and all those ancestors who were there, they are here right now. And we thank you that they're with us and that they're guiding us and that they're helping and supporting us. And thank you for the elders who are still living that can transfer wisdom and experience. And my heart has been lightened today, because there's some young people in the room who are not the future, they are the right now. And so give them the strength, the courage, and the power to persevere, to endure, and to resist. Now may the grace of God, the sweet communion of the Holy Spirit rest and abide with you now, henceforth, and forevermore. And all of God's children say amen. Amen. All right. Y'all be blessed. Have a great rest of your week. There are some pictures up here of that night. So if you want some pictures, you can feel free to take pictures with the pictures, as well as the FBI file as well.